Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Jaya Gopi Jandava Giridvaradari Jaya Gopi Jandava Giridvaradari Jasodanandana Gaja Janarandana Jasodanandana Braja Janarandana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari I Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajikacharya Ashacharya Shatra Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajikacharya Ashacharya Shatra Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Mathura Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd Canto, 3rd Chapter, Text 13. Shonaka Uvacha.
Shonaka Uvacha.
Iti Abhivyartam Raja Nishamya Bharata Rishabha Parikshit Kim Anyat Pishtavan Bhuyaha Vayasakim Rishim Kavim Shonaka Uvacha Ityabhivyartam Raja Ityabhivyartam Raja Nisamya Bharatarshava Kimanyat Prishtabhan Bhuyo Vayasakim Vishim Kavim Shonaka Uvacha Ityabhivyaritam Raja Nishamya Bharatarshava Kimanyat Prishtabhan Bhuyo Payasakim Rishim Kavim Shonaka Uvacha Ityabhivyaritam Raja Nishamya Bharatarshava Kimanyat Pishtavan Bhuyo Vayasakim Rishim Kavim Shonaka Uvacha
Ityabhivyaritam Raja
Ityabhivyaritam Raja
Nishamya Bharata Shabha
Nishamya Bharatarshava
Kimanyat Prishtavan Bhuyo
Kimanyat Pishtavan Bhuyo
Ayasakim Rishim Kavim
Vayasakim Rishim Kavim Shonaka Uvacha
Ityabhivyaritam Raja
Avitam Raja
Nishamya Bharatarshava
Samya Bharatarshava
Manyat Pishtavan Bhuyo
Kimanyat Pishtavan Bhuyo
Ayasakim Rishinkavim
Ayasakim Rishim Kavim
Shanaka Uvacha
Shonaka Uvacha
Iti Abhiratam Raja
Ram Raja
Nishayam Bharatar Sabaha
Nisamya Bharatarshava
Im Anyat Prishtavan Bhuyo
Kimanyat Pishtavan Bhuyo
Vayakashim Risham Kavim
Vayasakim Rishim Kavim
Shonaka Uvacha
Shonaka Uvacha
Ityabhivyaritam Raja
Ityabhivaritam Raja
Nishamya Bharatarshavaha
Nishamya Bharatarshava
Kimanyat Prishtavan Bhuyo
Kimanyat Pishtavan Bhuyo
Vayasakim Rishim Kavim
Vayasakim Rishim Kavim
Sanaka Uvacha
Shonaka Uvacha
Iti Abhivyartam Raja
Ityabhyaritam Raja
Nisamya Bharatasarvaha
Nishamya Bharatarshava
Kimanya Pristavam Bhuyo
Kimanyat Pishtavan Bhuyo
Vayasakim Rishim Kavim
Vayasakim Rishim Kavim
Shanaka Uvacha
Shonaka Uvacha
Ityabhivyaritam Raja
Ityabhivyaritam Raja
Nishamya Bharatarshava
Nishamya Bharatarshava
Kimanyat Prishtavan Bhuyo
Kimanyat Pishtavan Bhuyo
Vayasakim Rishim Kavim
Vayasakim Rishim Kavim
Shanaka Uvacha
Shonaka Uvacha Ityabhivyaritam Raja Nishamya Bharatarshava Kimanyat Pishtavan Bhuyo Vayasakim Rishim Kavim. Translation. Shonaka said, the son of Vyasdev, Srila Shukadev Goswami, was a highly learned sage and was able to describe things in a poetic manner. What did Maharaj Parikshit again inquire from him after hearing all that he had said? Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. A pure devotee of the Lord automatically develops all godly qualities, and some of the prominent features of those qualities are as follows. He is kind, peaceful, truthful, equable, faultless, magnanimous, mild, clean, non-possessive, a well-wisher to all, satisfied, surrendered to Krishna, without hankering, simple, fixed, self-controlled, a balanced eater, sane, mannerly, prideless, brave, sympathetic, friendly, poetic, expert, and silent. Out of these 26 prominent features of a devotee, as described by Krishnadas Kaviraj in his Chaitanya Charitamrita, the qualification of being poetic is especially mentioned herein in relation to Shukadev Goswami. The presentation of Srimad Bhagavatam by his recitation is the highest poetic contribution. He was a self-realized learned sage. In other words, he was a poet among the sages. If Maharaj wishes to speak something, we are all very eager to hear what Maharaj has to say. So, I'll read the translation one more time. Shaunika said, the son of Vyasadeva, Srila Shukadev Goswami, was a highly learned sage and was able to describe things in a poetic manner. What did Maharaj Parikshit again inquire from him after hearing all that he had said? So the pure devotees of the Lord, they are empowered by the Lord and his agents, namely Goddess Saraswati, to select the finest words glorifying the Lord. And they often make garlands of words and compose expert poetry, and they offer such garlands to the Lord. And the Lord very much appreciates these offerings from his pure devotees. And he further empowers them to write so many volumes of transcendental poetry containing, the most intimate descriptions of the Lord's form, quality, and pastimes. And so the pure devotees of the Lord, they're empowered to do this. The devotees of the Lord are voracious writers of transcendental subject matters. It's not out of some mundane material urge that they voraciously write so many volumes of literatures. But it's out of pure love for the Lord that they are completely addicted to glorifying the Lord. They are so much addicted to glorifying the Lord and hearing the Lord's glories that they write more volumes of literature than is even possible for one to study in one lifetime. So such is the intelligence of the devotee, is completely fixed, one-pointedness. Tasmad ekena manasa Bhagavan Sattvatam Patihi Shrotavyas Kirtitavyas Cha Dhyeya Pujas Chanityada. So one pointed consciousness on hearing and chanting and worshiping and glorifying the Lord, meditating on the Lord, remembering the Lord. That they're able to go on their whole life writing so much, so many words about the Lord, glorifying the Lord, speaking so much. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj was able to speak more literature on just one verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam than most people are capable of reading in their life. And there is an example of that we can read about. Similarly, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he wrote so many books with in such a seemingly small window of time. He had all these kids, and he was working as a magistrate, had so many important material duties. Of course, they were completely spiritual because he's a pure devotee of the Lord. but so many seemingly material obligations in his life. And somehow he managed to write so many volumes of literature. And he translating so many ancient Vedic texts, Sanskrit texts into Bengali in a way that was so palatable to read and so beautifully composed, so much nice poetry. The essence of knowledge of Vedanta philosophy was composed in so many wonderful songs and so many nice narratives, like Jaiva Dharma is nice philosophical narrative. I haven't read any of these, but I've just heard about some of the glories. So yeah, that is real love, that the pure devotees of the Lord go on engaging in these activities unceasingly. Mind completely focused, one-pointedly on the Lord and glorifying the Lord. Here in the material world, speaking is simply the croaking of the toads and the barking of the dogs. It is just, it's dry, it drones on and on and on. And then fades out, change subject, and again, flavorless. But spiritual subject matters, they grow sweeter and sweeter and more new. And so devotees are addicted to speaking about the Lord out of real love. And they relish this kind of enjoyment, this highest kind of enjoyment. And as they speak on the Lord and the subjects on the Lord, his form, his qualities, and his pastimes, their speech becomes more and more relishable. And that is due to having been passed down. So Shukadev Goswami, he's likened unto a parrot who pecks a fruit. In the Bhagavatam is likened to that fruit, and the fruit grows sweeter as the bird pecks it. And so similarly, as Srila Shukadev Goswami spoke the Bhagavatam according to how he heard it from his father, Srila Vyasadeva, and Vyasadeva from Sri Narada, and Narada from Lord Brahma. So the fruit is being passed down, and it becomes more and more relishable to hear. The devotee speaking is just like the churning of the milk ocean. The end result is Amrita, and the godly individuals get to relish this Harikatha Amrita. The godly are very much eager to hear about the Lord and know the value of Sankirtan. Cheto darpanam marjanam bhavamahadavagni nirvapanam Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam Vidyavadu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratipadam Purnam Ritaswadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Shri Gonita Ki Jai. Glory to the Shri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. The value of the Sankirtan movement is the highest wealth in the whole existence. All living entities are anxious to receive this transcendental knowledge, to be reconnected to the source, Sri Krishna, and enjoy a variety of transcendental loving exchanges with the Lord, who's so expert at completely satisfying and fulfilling all the wishes and desires of all living entities. And simply just to relish the topics on the Lord is the highest goal of life, hearing about him, speaking about him. There's no other activity to really engage in. There's no other activity that is satisfying in that way. All other activities are simply meant to facilitate that activity. Eating, why do we eat? So that we can maintain this body and go on serving the Lord. Why do we sleep? So we can do the same thing. The why do we perform activities? It all has to be aimed at Krishna. Otherwise, there will just be frustration. If the why is not checked, then there will be so much frustration. We can see that time and time again throughout the ages. Sri Krishna is descending to protect the devotees and to annihilate the miscreants. And he sends his pure devotees representatives to do the same. But namely, our acharyas, they come and they get people to question why it is that, why are we doing this? Why do I hate this individual based on something? Why am I so lusty for this? Why am I engaging in this kind of activity? Namely, the pure devotees, they trigger these questions within the hearts of the conditioned living entities. And like that, the conditioned living entities can come to the real human platform where they're asking the right questions. Because so many questions are also being asked all the time. When is my food coming? When will I get this thing? When will this happen? Why is this happening to me? Why am I suffering? So many questions. All the animals in the forest are also asking all these questions. Who is that bird over there who's approaching my nest? What is that squirrel doing? Why is this happening? So many things. But the pure devotees of the Lord, they get us to ask the right questions. Why am I suffering? Why am I having to take birth after birth? Why do I have to die? Why do I have to face disease? So they get us to ask the right questions, and this is the human form of life. Who is the Lord? Who is the source of everything that I see around me? Why am I so envious of this? So many questions. So the value of the Sankirtan movement, this is the highest wealth in the existence. And so the sages of Naimisharanya, these great, big, powerful rishis from all over the universe, and they were considering that this 16-year-old boy, Srila Shukadev Goswami, was the wealthiest man in the universe. So all these big sages, immensely powerful, endowed with all kinds of opulence from the Lord, given the power of attorney over certain various things, so many cities and so many just amazing abilities, superpowers. And they considered that this 16-year-old boy, he should sit at the center of the universe and speak this Srimad Bhagavatam, this most important event that's taking place at Naimisharanya. The 16-year-old boy should do that. But it's because he heard the Srimad Bhagavatam from his father, Srila Vyasadeva. And again, Srila Vyasadeva heard it from Sri Narada, and Sri Narada heard it from Lord Brahma. And so that fruit, that Srimad Bhagavatam fruit, was passed down perfectly and was so relishable to hear. It's coming in the line of disciplic succession from Lord Brahma, ultimately from Lord Krishna himself, and passed to Srila Shukadev Goswami. And so the sages were just relishing hearing this from Srila Shukadev Goswami, whose knowledge was so vast, and who could speak so sweetly in such a poetic way. By dint of his pure love for the Lord, he was able to construct that garland of words glorifying the Lord and offer it. So the whole affair was incredibly relishable. Whereas in the material world, one, he gets into so much trouble because he's always speaking nonsense and he's creating disturbances. And all these ideas that he's speaking contaminate the minds of everybody around him and himself. And eventually, because he's speaking all these nonsense ideas, he's got to act on them. And so that creates further disturbances. But Srila Shukadev Goswami, he's speaking on the highest, most confidential knowledge. So it's incredibly relishable to hear the pastimes of the Lord, the pastimes of the intimate devotees of the Lord, and various other subject matters that are highly important for us to hear about. But spoken in such a nice way. Similarly, Srila Prabhupada, he's also written volumes of such literature glorifying the Lord. He has also spoken such volumes of literature, and all of it has been recorded as evidence. And we can all hear this. It's amazing, actually. It's an unfathomable vault of pure love of Godhead that we can open up, dive into at any moment. He's the most recorded spiritual personality in history. I'm pretty sure I heard that one time. And I believe it too, because you can go on Vedabase and you can see, scroll, you'll be scrolling for a while and it's all recorded lectures, him speaking volumes of literature, just on one verse of the Bhagavatam. You go on it and you can find an hour, of him speaking so many nice things. And in his purports, writing so many purports on just one verse, we have a whole purport of transcendental nectar that we can dive into and relish, which are his personal ecstasies. And oftentimes they are all very finely constructed in a poetic manner as well. And so even if you, because I can't necessarily relish them from the highest position, but even if one is just an admirer of nice literature, nicely constructed poetic, literature, then these books, Srila Prabhupada's books, are still very much relishable, and they've been very much appreciated from that platform as well, from the academic platform. So much glorification for how much knowledge is contained within them. You've got the Devanagari and the transliteration and the word for word and then the translation, and then such a nice purports containing so many analogies and so many poetic embellishments. And so in every angle and every facet, these literatures are very admirable. And similarly, the devotee who's also speaking and writing these from an intellectual standpoint. Yes, Maharaj.
There was, along these lines, some years ago, there was a man who wrote a book, and it was about some kind of marketing, selling things. And the name of the book was How to Make It Sound Like a Cheese. So because they always say that if you can make a better mousetrap, then you can make money. So, and at the beginning of every chapter, he would give a quote by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada that would apply to some particular aspect that he was pointing out. So we've seen that. And it's true that because Prabhupada's sage And anything that one wants is like a desire tree. Desire tree gives whatever one wants. So similarly, you can, from the pure devotee, you can get anything. Even if you're looking for something material, you'll get the best material, best knowledge, or the best subject matter. It doesn't have to be it doesn't just be on spiritual, so-called spiritual things, even material things. Study of sociology, we find the Vedas, the Chaturvarnyam, Mahashishtam Gunakama Vibhagasa. Krishna says, I created the fourth system of varnas and ashramas. And Prabhupada explained it so nicely. People generally have a poor conception of the varnashram system. They call it the caste system because they think it's based on one's birth, one's situation, one's position in society. But actually, Srila Prabhupada so nicely explained it that thousands of people now around the world are taking up the same view that the society should be divided by these four divisions, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. But not on the basis of birthright, but on the basis of one's guna and karma, his qualities and his activities. And then it makes perfect sense. So that's the beauty of a great realized acharya, is he's able to make sense out of anything. All the Vedas make perfect sense. Every statement makes perfect sense, and he understands it. And because he understands it, he can explain it by Krishna's grace. Krishna gives him the ability to do that because he's not trying to get anything material. If someone writes a book or writes something and he wants to be recognized as a famous writer, then no one will be interested in it because it's just the same things again. Everyone is trying to glorify themselves. When they make a painting, they want to glorify themselves. They want to be known as a famous painter, famous author. They want to enjoy the results, but that's material. And that is so disgusting, that mood, that tendency, that a sensible person will realize that the material world is not a fit place to live, actually, where everybody is just trying to egocentrically establish themselves as the best. So we have practical experience how Srila Prabhupada took a subject matter that they won't even teach in schools now. Schools don't want to speak about anything spiritual because they think it's so worthless. They just want real, what they consider tangible subject matters like science and computer science and things like that. How to try to squeeze out some pleasure from material things. But pure devotee, like, by the way, Prabhupada was also nicknamed Kavi. When he wrote his poem, he was given the title by his godbrothers as poet because Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur liked his writing so much. He always told his editors of his magazine, whatever he writes, just print it. Bhaktisiddhanta Swami. That's how he was recognized by Bhaktisiddhanta, his spiritual master. His beautiful poems, adore, adore ye all the happy day, blessed in heaven, sweeter than an A. When he appeared at Puri, the holy place, my Lord and Master, his divine grace. That's just one line, a whole beautiful poem like that, describing Bhaktisiddhanta's Saraswati Thakur's endless good qualities. So, as you nicely pointed out, we have our own Kavi, our own poet, Supreme. And he has all the, you can go through the 26 qualities of a devotee and you'll find that those who have those characteristics, they're great souls. Those characteristics are not found in everyone. It's like, look at the 26 qualities. First one is kind. Kind to everyone. Who could be more kind than Srikadeva Goswami? Who could be more kind than Srila Prabhupada? At the age of 70, he came at great hardship, great difficulty, to bring a message that nobody else would have been able to bring. And a message that wasn't desired. People weren't desiring it. But he came and with no money, no followers, no support, no guarantee of anything, and no visa. And he worked so hard. Just even see how many letters he wrote, or how much he spoke. Well, he was doing all these things on just the idea that the Lord will be pleased. I should try to do this. My duty to try. Even though it may be unsuccessful, it may be a complete failure. He wasn't concerned with that. He just took it as his duty and he tried his best, and Krishna empowered him as the greatest poet because he has knowledge. What is the use of poetry that rhymes if it doesn't mean anything? If there's no purpose for it, if it has no value. Prabhupada said, poet doesn't just mean rhyming things. It means he gives the intrinsic meaning so beautifully that everyone can appreciate.
Thank you, Maharaj. All glory to Srila Prabhupada, Srimad. Yes, Krishna Shavana Prabhu.
In the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Vyasadeva is glorified as the author of Srimad Bhagavatam, which he composed under the instruction of his guru, Sri Narada Muni. But in the latest verse, it's intimated that Srila Sukadeva Goswami was the Kavim who composed the poetry describing Krishna. So is this Sukadeva Goswami's own version of Srimad Bhagavatam, or is this Srila Vyasadeva's version?
Thank you for the nice question. It's not Shukadev Goswami's version. But Maharaj, would you like to speak anything?
Maybe Krishna Shravana can give us a
Prabhu,
insight.
Krishna Shravana Prabhu, would you like to say anything on that? I don't have so much realization on that, no.
This is just a detail.
Okay.
Well, they're both great poets. And by the grace of Narad Muni, once Prabhupada wrote this, that by the grace of Narad Muni, one can even surpass Narad Muni's service, although it's unimaginable how anyone could do that. By the grace of Narad Muni. So because Shukadeva Goswami accepted everything that his father said as coming down from the Lord himself, then he was empowered to speak it so nicely, the whole world. And Shukadeva and Vyasadeva was so humble that he didn't say that you have to say everything the way I said it. And no, he wanted to hear, because when, as you pointed out, when the transcendental knowledge or the glories of the Lord are presented by a pure devotee, they become even sweeter. So Vyasadeva was able to relish it even more. And so that's why it's included. And by the grace of Vyasadeva, Shukadeva Goswami was able to do that. By the grace of Shukadeva, then others were able to present. And it just goes on like that. It'll never stop. The more Krishna is glorified, the more it'll become relishable. So the devotees don't have to worry that after some years I'll lose my taste. There's no question of losing taste, because Krishna keeps getting sweeter and sweeter. And when the devotees taste the nectar of Krishna's sweetness, then their ecstasy increases thousands of times. Then Krishna sees their ecstasy and he becomes more sweet, and it just goes on and on. A transcendental competition of transcendental bliss. Therefore, Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam, the ocean of the increasing ocean of transcendental bliss, is found from chanting the glories of the Lord. All glories to Shukadeva Goswami and Vyasadeva.
All right. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srimad Bhagavatam class ki jai.